Vote counting is underway in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's Election Commission has clarified that it is now a two-horse race, with the voters' second choice to be taken into account. Well, halfway through counting in the polling divisions, and there's very little between the two leading contestants, which are Anurakkumara Dissanayake and Sajith Premadasa. As of now, leading contestant Anurakkumara Dissanayike's share has crossed the 40% mark. Meanwhile, Sajith Premadasa has reduced the margin. He now holds just under 34% of the vote. Well, the votes have so far been counted for around 140 out of the 160 polling divisions. Well, since no contestant holds the 50% majority required, Sri Lanka's Election Commission has confirmed that a second preference vote count is underway. Well, all contestants other than Dissanayake and Premadasa have been eliminated. In Sri Lanka's election system, voters can mark one contestant on the ballot or rank three contestants in order of their preference. If no contestant gets 50% or more of the vote, then a second round of counting factors in the preferences of voters whose first choice did not make it to the top two. Counting is underway amid tight security. The Election Commission has been praised for holding what many observers say most peaceful elections in Sri Lanka. Well, big focus on the main opposition leader Sajith Premadasa and Marxist-leaning challenger Anurakkumara Dissanayake. The election is widely seen as a referendum on Rajapaksa's successor Ranil Wickremesinghe, who has restored some stability through austerity policies backed by the IMF. On the other hand, the measures, including tax hikes, have left millions struggling to make their ends meet, and they're perhaps unpopular with many voters in Sri Lanka. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Dasuni Athola has sent us this on-ground report from Colombo as the race in Sri Lanka narrows down to a two-horse race. Take a look.
Sri Lankans all across the island are now waiting with bated breath to see how the preference votes have turned into results here in Sri Lanka. For the first time in the country's election history, the preferential voter system has now come into play. According to what we saw from the counting centres here in Colombo, a majority of the counting of these preferential votes have now concluded, with the confirmation from the Election Commission still pending. And from that, we will know who will be Sri Lanka's next executive president. Stay with WION as we bring you the very latest. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dissanayake.
Well, to talk more on this, we're now being joined live from Colombo. We have with us Jamila Hussain. She's the editor-in-chief of Daily Mirror and a recipient of multiple awards for her coverage of war against terror and human rights. Welcome to WION, Ms. Hussain.
Thank you. Thank you for connecting with me.
Right, Ms. Hussain, votes of 120 out of 160 polling divisions have been counted so far, and a majority of the preference vote, it has also been counted. Do you think that the preferential voting will change the trend from the first round where we saw Dissanayake leading the polls, or do you think that this will be a game changer for Premadasa?
No, as of now, as we are speaking, I think Anurakkumara Dissanayake has already been unofficially declared the winner, although we are still waiting for the Elections Commission to give an official confirmation. There is a very large gap of votes between Anurakkumara and his runner-up Sajith Premadasa. So even if the second preference vote is taken into consideration, according to sources from the Elections Commission, who I was just having a chat with before I came on air, it won't be that much to sort of make it a game changer. So I think by tomorrow morning, Sri Lanka will enter into a new presidency under Anurakkumara Dissanayake.
Right, Mr. Hussain, we're still waiting for any kind of official confirmation as to who will be Sri Lanka's next president. And as we speak, there are still votes from around 40 polling divisions remaining. But we'll have to wait and see as to who is the next president of Sri Lanka. But let's also talk more about Wickremesinghe's performance at the polls this time. He has garnered around 17% of the votes. What were some of the reasons for his performance in the Sri Lankan polls?
Ranil Wickremesinghe came back to Parliament in 2022 after he was voted out. And he came in at a time when the country was in a severe crisis. And when the leader of the opposition back then, or any other politician who was in the opposition, was not willing to take the country forward. So he entered Parliament through a national seat. And then he eventually got voted as the president of Sri Lanka in a parliamentary vote. And ever since, he has then taken Sri Lanka forward by trying to end the economic crisis. I mean, things were very bad back then in 2022, where, we did not even have our basics. So eventually he entered into an IMF agreement, and now that's ongoing. Even right throughout his campaign this time in the presidential election, he kept saying that he has paved the way for a 10-year plan. And if that plan breaks, the country might go back into the crisis what we were in 2022. But it's just that what didn't work for him is that the soaring taxes, which was placed on the common man, and the fact that, he was not able to also defeat corruption. People saw him as somebody who was within the circle, obviously facing where others, he took in members who were already facing allegations of corruption into his camp. And eventually, I think that did not work well for him. So I guess his campaigning was a little weak when it came to the campaigning of Dissanayake, who instead campaigned very heavily, saying that he was coming in to defeat corruption. And I think that worked well for AKD.
Right, Mr. Hussain, it does look like that the Sri Lankans did not perhaps approve of Wickremesinghe's slow economic recovery, and they have voted for change. The race has narrowed down to Dissanayake versus Premadasa. We'll have to wait and see as to who is the next president of Sri Lanka. But thank you for joining us on WION with your insights.
Thank you very much.